The Vikings win their 10th game in the exact same way they won all of the others. Vikings-Jets recap here on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Let's get it.
You like that? 3, 1, 2, 3. You like it?
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I am your host, your pal, and the kid you copied off in math class. My name is Luke Braun. You can find me on Twitter at Luke Braun NFL. You can find the show on Twitter at Locked On Vikings. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day, each and every day. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 of your favorite players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on entry if you're right. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. Thank y'all for your patience. I was feeling a little under the weather yesterday, so this didn't come out when it usually would. Little late on this, little late on the, couldn't do the postcast with Sam. So thank you to everybody who tuned in there. But we're back, we're here. So let's talk about Vikings Jets. It was the same game you've seen if you've seen one Vikings game, except for literally the first one against the Packers. That was the only one that wasn't like this. Every other game has been a great opening script, good game plan, scream out to a lead, give up that lead, and then it's a nail biter in the fourth quarter. But they keep winning those fourth quarter nail biters. And a lot of it, I saw somebody point out, this was another one that ends on a major defensive play, like a hero play. This time it was Cam Bynum, 4th and 10, game on the line, gets an interception. Before, it was Patrick Peterson getting that interception against the Bills. And it was kind of all of it taking that. It was Ross Blacklock sacking Mac Jones, kind of putting him behind the 8 ball on Thanksgiving. And in this particular time, it was Cam Bynum who really stepped up and improved on exactly it's like he listened to Locked On Vikings. Because everything I was talking about in Locked On Vikings last week, he showed a lot of improvement in, and to the end of not only that last interception, but one of the first interceptions as well. With the Vikings at a 3-3 tie with the Jets, there is a similar pass over the middle that Cam Bynum has to break on, and he makes the play. He swats the ball away, gets tipped up, turns into a tip drill to Harrison Smith. So to me, that's one of the big stories of the game was his improvement in particular, and I'll get more in depth to it in a moment. But the Vikings got a lot of interesting stuff out of role players throughout this whole game. Patrick Jones had some really great stuff. You got a couple of really big moments out of Jalen Reagor, including a fairly difficult downfield catch. Perhaps he's getting more involved in the offense. Perhaps now that he's been here for a little longer, he's getting a little bit more comfortable. Or maybe, that's just where that ball happened to go that time, right? Not everything has to be a pattern. But stuff like that, even some good Shannon Sullivan plays, and the Vikings did a good job. And if you think of this game, and I know, again, it doesn't feel real because it was too close, and the Vikings, they sprung out to a 20-3 lead and blew it. You're not going to be 100% happy about that, right? But, however, the Jets are a good team. They are. I know their quarterback situation is borked. I thought Mike White had a pretty good game, but there are some plays he just couldn't throw. And I think the Vikings did a good job of kind of forcing him only to be able to, he only made throws that he could make. And I thought the Vikings did a good job kind of only defending that, because when it was time to throw a turkey hole, a big go ball or something, it just, the ball just wasn't there. So I think a good job scouting for him. But outside of that, there is a lot of star power on these Jets with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed and Quinnen Williams. And there's so much going on with Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and Braxton Berrios. That skill group is really fun. There's a lot to like about these Jets, and to go into that game and beat up on them so much to begin with, I think that's really admirable, especially on the offensive side of the ball, Nobody moves the ball on the Jets the way the Vikings were able to move the ball on the Jets. 27 points on the Jets is a good accomplishment. And it's not like they were aided, but they got one short field off of an interception, and that turned into a field goal. I'm pretty sure the other interception didn't turn into any points. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going off memory there. But I think in terms of where the Vikings are at by like the transitive property of how well did you do against the Jets, I'm pretty satisfied. The Jets are a good team, and being in a scrappy game with them and winning it is the kind. I mean, the Jets are probably going to be in the playoffs. Like, I really think that they have a good chance to be in. I don't think they're in position right now, and it'll come down to the last 5 weeks. But I think that they are a frisky road wildcard team. That is your wildcard game, right? That's your game against the Commanders or Seahawks or 49ers or whoever ends up being the 7th seed if Vikings positioning holds. Which, let's talk about Vikings positioning. For one, we have some celebration to do because the Packers have been knocked out of the NFC North. I tweeted that, and everybody really seemed to like that piece of news. The Bears got knocked out on Thanksgiving with the Vikings winning, and it's just simple now. Vikings have 10 wins. Packers have 8 losses. They cannot have 10 wins, so they can't win the North. The Bears are fully eliminated from all playoff contention. The Packers are still hanging on by a thread there. The Lions are the only team that has not been fully eliminated from playoff contention, but the Vikings are, I guess you'd call it like dormy if you're familiar with match play golf. But they just need to win one matchup. That's it. What the Vikings need one win, the Lions need one loss. Vikings play the Lions here, so I am going to imagine that they are going to come out very fired up to say, okay, this is our chance. Let's just go win this damn division. That's where they're at now. Obviously, the Eagles keep winning. It's getting harder and harder to imagine the Vikings getting 2 games back on the Eagles in just 5 weeks. But stranger things have certainly happened. We still got time, so we just got to keep on keeping on. I want to kind of go into some of the stuff that I thought was good with the offense and some of the stuff I thought didn't work. Really weird Kirk Cousins game, accuracy-wise, as well as some of the stuff on defense. They couldn't get any pressure. I got some things to complain about and some things to praise on both sides of the ball. So we're going to do that in a bit. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Total Wine and More. This holiday, find what you love at Total Wine and More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite single barrel bourbon or like a perfect gift for someone on your list with some help from a friendly guide. Only at Total Wine and More can you find all the confidence in knowing that you found something special for that special someone with help from a friendly guide, so you can actually kind of know like what you're looking through. I am certainly not a big like wine person or spirits like snob, so I don't know what the difference between like double cask, wood, oak, whatever. I don't know that, so that guide very important and helpful, at least to me. You will love what you find at Total Wine and More. Spirits not sold in Virginia and Carolina. Drink responsibly and be 21. I also want to talk to you about, we're going to talk a lot about protection in a bit, but what about your own protection of your home? You got to keep that safe, and some people, because of money or whatever, they won't set their home up with a home security system, and you're just begging for something bad to happen. So here's what I'll tell you about Simply Safe. They were named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report, and that's the 3rd year in a row. They have Fast Protect technology, which is exclusively from Simply Safe, that captures critical evidence and verifies that your threat is real. And they have 24/7 professional monitoring agents using that technology. So you're not going to get the alarm to go off because the cat walked into the wrong room, but you will have eyes on your home at all times, whether you are there asleep or not or whatever. That service costs under $1 a day, less than half the price of traditional home security systems. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, you can stay in complete control of your system no matter where you are, arm, disarm, unlock, whatever. So don't miss your chance to save big on my favorite security system. Get 40% off of any new system at simplysafe.com/lockedonnfl today. That's simplysafe.com/lockedonnfl. There is no safe like Simply Safe. Moving on with this episode of Twitter Tuesday on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Thank you so much for making it your first listen of the day. If you want more in-depth film stuff with more like visual aids and actually be able to see me draw on tape, you can find me at patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL. And also, I'm still doing the jersey giveaway. I am giving away a Vikings jersey. If you want to enter the raffle, the information is in the description. You just have to donate to my favorite bunny charity. Hope none of you would mind doing that. Let's start with the offense. I think it was an up and down day for both units. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball when talking about their day. I really thought the Vikings did a good job of scheming things up. And it seemed to me that this was the vibe I got going into the game after talking to John Butchko and thinking about the Jets for a while, was that the Jets would pretty much let you have the matchups. That you weren't going to have to deal with a whole bunch of like capping and poaching and all that stuff. And I do think that Justin Jefferson did mention that DJ Reed did get some safety help, which it was a funny interaction. It was a post-game thing, and DJ Reed was basically saying, no, I don't think I did that bad against him. I thought, when we were one-on-one, we did okay, and kind of smack talking a little bit, and Justin Jefferson said, hey, you had safety help all day. And it's also funny because, like, Jefferson got a lot of catches on DJ Reed. I don't think DJ Reed had a great day against Jefferson. He's a good corner. He played it tough. It was definitely different than the Kindle, Vildor, or whatever. Like, Jefferson's seen some pretty crappy corners in some games. DJ Reed, certainly not one of them, but I think Jefferson gets to walk away with the win there. A difficult win. But you didn't get to see a ton of Sauce Gardner on Justin Jefferson. You got some, but really the Jets were happy to kind of leave that one-on-one. Turns into 7 catches for a paltry for Justin Jefferson. 45 yards. It was not Jefferson's biggest day. He had a drop in there that I thought he should have taken. The ball was a little behind him, a little tough, but you got to catch that. And there were some other problems there, but there was a lot more spreading the ball around. 2 catches to Alexander Madison on like swing passes type stuff. I think there was 1 screen. 2 Adam Thielen, 2 KJ Osborne, Hawkinson, big one to Jalen Reagor. The ball spread around quite a bit, and I think that was a good way to move the ball on the Jets. But ultimately, like, if you look at the box score, it just doesn't look like the Vikings produced that much, and it is kind of because they fell apart in the second half. And here's what I'll say. There was a lot more of these guys running around open than we got completions, because Kirk Cousins wasn't accurate in this game. And that sucks, because it's usually the thing that you can kind of hang your hat on with him. But everything was high. Everything was over people's heads. There were like diving catches that didn't have to be diving catches. Stuff was coming out very erratically for Kirk Cousins. Now, I don't know if some of that's miscommunication or some of that's just like straight up misfires, but either way, it definitely led to a lack of production. And it's like kind of funny, like it's not the usual gripe we have with Kirk Cousins. And I think in terms of, aggressiveness and decision-making and stuff, I really like where Kirk Cousins went with the ball. There was a 3rd and 9 where he had to like get tough and gritty and go take a hit to scramble and convert it. And he did. And that was awesome. I love those kinds of plays. And I loved the open receivers he was finding all day against a defense where that's pretty hard. And he was just missing the throws. It's like a huge bummer. What actually is wrong with it, I do not know. And I kind of want to ask around to people that know more about quarterback than me about like, hey, why do these keep coming out high? My eyes can see that. My eyes can see that receivers are like having to jump for passes in situations where they don't have to. But I don't have quite enough training to know, at least not on like the live viewings, why. Like, what's wrong with the golf swing? Like I need a golf pro. My guess right now would be, and I think a broadcast mentioned this, was that his shoulders are like cocking a little bit too much, and you'll do that for a deep shot. If you watch him line up for a deep heave, he'll kind of cock his shoulders like up, and then that'll help him get more air under it. And I think maybe that's happening in passes where it doesn't need that, which might just be kind of a skittishness thing. But I don't know what the deal was with that, but I do think it was like the operative problem with the offense. There was some problems with pressure, but less than I thought we would see. And I'm kind of saying that outside of the Cowboys game where it was like the driving thing that ruined the offense. This has been a really tough group of front fours these last 5 games. I'll go all the way back to Washington, Buffalo, New England, the Jets. Decent games against all those guys, especially considering how much you had no Christian Darrisaw in it. Hope to get him back from concussion protocol soon. But I mean, we'll see. Concussions, even the really bad ones, do not tend to last more than 2 weeks. So 3 weeks would probably be like, it's possible, but that would be the max to me. for him to miss, which would mean one more game. Also, we get Cam Dantzler back off of IR, speaking of injury stuff, or he's now eligible to return off of IR, and they have said that they feel pretty optimistic that he'll be able to return right away. So you might have that. But I guess that does kind of bring us into defense and what happened on defense. We ended up with Duke Shelley again as Caleb Evans went right back into concussion protocol after starting in this game, but we did have Dalvin Tomlinson back. And again, kind of a mixed bag. There's some stuff I like. There's some stuff I do not like at all. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. But first, let me talk to you about daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks is where you can go to get daily fantasy football. Scratch that itch, but in a way where it's just you versus the house instead of you versus like a pool of 60,000 people, all of them, betting the different outliers and stuff. Are you going to be the best out of 60,000 people? I don't know, maybe, but can you beat the house? Probably a lot more often, right? That's what Prize Picks can do. Just pick 2 to 5 of your favorite players and whether they'll get more or less than their Prize Picks projection, and you can win up to 10 times your money if you are right. Takes less than 60 seconds to enter, give you a stake in some games. Love doing it for primetime games and stuff. If you are a first-time user, you can get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com. Promo code Locked On. So let's talk about defense here on Locked On Vikings. Again, mixed bag, but at least to start the game, the Vikings were totally clamps on them. They couldn't really throw. They had the one interception, the tip drill interception, which was born of a good play. So I know it feels like this like kind of ball luck thing, but there was something earned about it. At worst, that's a PBU. But on the other hand, at worst, that's a PBU. You didn't have major breaks. The run defense was fantastic. You had a whole bunch of great plays early in this game from Patrick Jones of all people, like chasing down the backside of runs, kind of doing what he does best. And he also had a sack. Getting Dalvin Tomlinson back seemed to be like, wow, okay, this defense is really good now with Tomlinson back. And the Jets offense is bad, but you were crushing them like you should. And then you just let it up. And, they come out from halftime. And here's what I think happened. This is going to be my sort of hypothesis of this. I think you go into halftime, you're down 20-6. Your kicker just made a 60-yard field goal to pull it within 2 scores. So you're going, look, 2 scores, we are in this, all right? Don't let it feel like it's over. We're in this, but you guys have to fight for every yard. You guys have to squeeze every single ounce you can out of this. And I think the Vikings went in saying, okay, stay the course. And what I really noticed, especially with the skill players on the Jets, we just couldn't tackle them. The tackling was so bad. And it was not just a matter of like bad form or whatever, but you could kind of tell that the Jets were trying to squeeze every ounce. There was a juke on everything. There was nothing, no play was just like, all right, I'm had here, like, all right, I'll take my yards and just go down. Everything was fighting for something different. And I think the Vikings got a little complacent. I think they tried to coast to the end of that game a little bit. And that, obviously that didn't work, right? You almost let it up. You scored 1 touchdown for the rest of the game and it almost wasn't enough. Blew the entire first half lead, needed another touchdown to cover it. But the one play that sticks out in my mind, there were a million like this, but the one play that sticks out in my mind was Harrison Smith on the goal line right before the 4th and 1 from Mike White, which again, on a third effort, like third effort, you stopped that sneak. You did the hard part. You stopped the big guys. Just somebody needed to come in and wrap up the quarterback, and nobody was. They all just went for hitting and pushing and just trying to keep it out instead of actually getting the ball carrier down. But it was before that. It was a run play from like the 5, and Harrison Smith knifes through the line of scrimmage. Just a great read, totally shoots the gap, gets up on the guy, and goes at the ankles. He loses his footing a little bit. Maybe that's why. But what are you doing going at his ankles, man? Wrap up and tackle. Opposite hit. Like, come on, it's day one stuff. And it felt like there was a lot of ankle diving, a lot of, trying to light somebody up instead of wrap them up. And to me, that led to a lot of extra yards. The one that really bugged me, it was a big, long Garrett Wilson play. And this was Cam Bynum. I guess we'll transition into the Cam Bynum thing from here. But the one thing that bugged me from that play, it was a big pass over the middle. And it was that classic pass over the middle that the Vikings have been giving up all year. And he catches it, and instead of tackling him, Cam Bynum like hits him, like bumps him. And he just keeps his footing and he goes for like 30 more yards. I thought it was going to be a breakaway touchdown. What are you doing, man? You gave up the catch. Tackle him. Get him down. What are you trying to hit him for? You're trying to light him up? What is this, Madden? Hit stick? Come on. So I didn't like that. But I have a lot of praise for Cam Bynum in this one. Don't get it wrong. Because what I talked about all last week was, and I really wanted to kind of do it as a tutorial for the basics of safety play, was about him, playing so deep. Why does he do that? And there are definitely times when he should be playing that deep, and there are times when he shouldn't, and he does. And so we can kind of pick out which are which. But really, it was transition footwork. It was getting in and out of breaks, and getting to a point of you're going from your back pedal to running forward, and how quickly can you go from one to the other? How quickly can you kind of change direction? And I thought his footwork was really sloppy there. So Cam Bynum, I'm going to put this up on the screen if I remember to, but Cam Bynum had later tweeted out something from a defense that labeled defensive corrections, like a notes that he had received, like notes from the coaches that he had received. And essentially when he's in quarters and the play is 2 in-breaking routes, which is basically meant to attack quarters, especially because I don't need to get too into deep parts of it, but when you have 2 quarter zones, usually those guys have inside help, but when both of those routes break inside, somebody's inside help is breaking away, and so you won't have that inside help. It's kind of a quarters beater. And Bynum would go into the back pedal off of those. But the correction was, no, shuffle step over. Like, get a cheat to the inside, and because they're going to attack you a ton with this. And they did. It was like one of the only things the Jets called in the pass game all day was like basics and skinny posts and post routes and stuff over the middle that was meant to prey on exactly that problem with Cam Bynum. And so here's the overarching thing. If you want the headline take, the thing you can take to the office, the Jets tried to pick on Cam Bynum and they lost because Cam Bynum punished them for it. That's what you can say. I really think you can say that. Got to tackle Garrett Wilson that one time, buddy. Come on. But the theme of the game for me was that Bynum adjusted his footwork to not get as deep when he's the inside guy on quarters. And that's what I wanted him to do. It was great. And that's why I said, it's like he listened to the show or something. And that leads to the final sequence of the game. The Jets, after scraping and clawing their way back, down 22-27, red zone possession, need a touchdown to win it, like 16 seconds left, get all the way down to a 4th and 10, and a couple of good plays by Duke Shelley, by the way, throughout that, who hopefully we won't continue to need him, but, for 4th string guy, if you count Peterson, we'll take it, right? Assuming that he's, I guess, 5th string because he was behind Booth, but I don't know if that would be the case anymore if Booth were healthy. But I digress. Good plays from all those guys. Cam Bynum getting the game-winning interception. I was like, it had to be Bynum. The way that Bynum had played that game, the way that the Jets went at Bynum in that game, the way they tried to prey on him, had to be him. He had to make that play, and I think the Vikings lose if Bynum doesn't step it up in the way that he does. So congrats to him. I think that's a game ball kind of game for him. Tomorrow is Twitter Tuesday, so get your questions in. All right. You can send them to me on Twitter at LukeBraunNFL or at Locked On Vikings. Send an email to lockedonvikingspodcast@gmail.com. Fill out the Google form in the show notes. Fill out the raffle. Go do a donation to Bunny World and send me your screenshot, and you can get raffle tickets. And we'll raffle off a jersey sooner rather than later, I bet. I will see you all tomorrow. And as always, Skull.